Look at this incredible weathered piece of history sitting. On the workbench, what you are observing is a rare 1924 French gas heater for most people. This is just a heavy pile of scrap metal, but to a restorer this is a masterpiece waiting to be rediscovered. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single screw, and in this case, the disassembly is a high-stakes operation. Every bolt, nut, and washer on this machine has been fused together by 100 years of oxidation. Our restorer starts with the top carrying handle, turning the tools with extreme caution. If a single original bolt snaps, it could ruin the entire aesthetic. Notice the heavy flaky rust on the outer shell. It is deep and aggressive. There is even a strange red screw on the side, likely a sign of a desperate low-quality repair made sometime in the mid-20th century that will definitely be discarded in favor of something period accurate. Now look at the main gas tap. This is the heart of the machine, but it is completely frozen in time. Brass and iron often bond together over decades, making them nearly impossible to separate. To overcome this, the restorer applies a generous amount of specialized penetrating oil, letting it seep into the microscopic cracks. But oil is not enough. He brings out the blowtorch by applying intense localized heat. He forces the metal to expand and contract, effectively shattering the bond of a century worth of rust. You can see the smoke rising as the old grease burns away. Finally, with a steady hand, the tap begins to turn. It is a slow, methodical victory that requires immense patience. Once the internal burner assembly is pulled out, we can truly appreciate the beautiful, albeit filthy, engineering of the 1920s. To clean the main cast iron body without damaging the structural integrity, restorer prepares a chemical bath using caustic soda. This is a critical safety precaution. In the 1920s, paints were often lead-based. If he were to sand this dry, he would be breathing in toxic lead dust. By using a chemical soak, the old lead in paint safely dissolves and slides off the metal like old skin. After the chemical bath, we move to the sandblasting under a high-pressure stream of abrasive glass beads. The dark, ugly remnants of the past century are obliterated. It is like watching a time machine at work. The thick crust of history is stripped away to reveal the raw, honest, silver-gray steel. Underneath, you can finally see the crispness of the Art Nouveau patterns on the ornamental legs. However, raw steel is like an open wound. It is incredibly vulnerable to moisture in the air. If left alone, it would start to rust again within hours, so the restorer moves immediately to the polishing phase. He starts by hand sanding the trim pieces, moving through various grits of sandpaper from coarse to medium and finally to a very fine 2000 grit finish. This creates a surface so smooth it feels like silk. Then the buffing wheel takes over using a high luster polishing compound. He brings the metal to a brilliant mirror-like reflection. This is not just a surface clean. It is a deep restoration of the metal original soul for the main outer casing. Simple spray paint simply will not do because this is a functional heater that will be breathing fire. The finish needs to be heat resistant and incredibly durable. The restorer chooses industrial powder coating. He applies a fine black pigment powder that is held to the metal by an electrostatic charge, ensuring that every microscopic pore is perfectly sealed. The parts are then placed into a specialized oven and baked at 180 degrees Celsius. In the heat of the oven, the powder melts, flows, and cures into a deep jet black glass-like shell. This finish is significantly tougher and more beautiful than anything the original factory could have produced in 1924. Now he carefully measures the remains of the old spirals and recreates the complex geometry on a computer-aided design program. He then uses a CNC engraving machine to carve the intricate pattern into a fresh sheet of high-quality, heat-resistant steel. This is a painfully slow process as the machine must be precise to the millimeter. Once the engraving is complete, the restorer must manually drill out every hole and cut every slot. Using a jeweler saw, there are 8 of these complex pieces in total. This stage alone represents over 4 days of non-stop focused labor to give them their final shape. He uses a custom carved wooden jig and a rubber mallet, carefully bending flat metal into the iconic spiral cones that will eventually radiate the heat. The final assembly is a moment of pure tension and excitement. Every single component has been cleaned Polished or rebuilt, the KO-MIO nameplate, a title that means bright light in Esperanto, is polished to a gold-like shine and riveted back onto the front of the glossy black casing. He reinstalls the gas burner tube, which has also been blued for protection. The silver trim pieces are snapped into place, and for the first time in 100 years, the heater looks brand new. He installs the gas tap with fresh modern seals to ensure there are no dangerous leaks. He lit the match and the heater's works. Soft whoosh. Initially, the flames are large and orange as the new coatings settle.